shotgun. Runs right, cuts it back to the left, dives, touchdown! The Steelers extend their lead. The Steelers 20, Jets 10. And now they have to find a way to come from 2 scores down. 3! Zach Wilson in the shotgun. Play action, looks over the middle, throws a slant. He's got a hook up to Conklin. Zach Wilson in the shotgun, dumps it off left, caught by Carter. Reaching back, Corey Davis. Wilson takes the snap, handoff, Hall up the middle, extra effort at the goal line. The Jets have a touchdown! Pickett in the shotgun. He's going to throw one as far as he can. Heaves it in the back of the end zone. LaMarcus Joyner picks it up. All zeros on the clock. The Jets have won it.
That's how you finish a game. Empty the tank.
Okay, so today I didn't have a chance to get back from the office and to make my own tacos, but the wife hooked it up, and we have brisket tacos. Now, I ain't gonna lie to you, I didn't make these. My brother-in-law makes an amazing brisket. We got some leftover freaking brisket, and I was able to go ahead and make a taco. So in all actuality, I couldn't even give you the recipe because this literally took, I guess you can say, a whole 24 hours to make. And then we added a little bit of onions and peppers and a little bit of cilantro and onion on top of it. Threw it into some freaking fresh HEB tortillas. And today's taco is a brisket taco, compliments of, well, my brother's brisket. All actuality, it's not even fair that I show this to you guys because that's just delicious. Okay, I'm gonna finish these up. This is definitely a TTT of a 10. The taco taste test score for this one is a 10 out of 10 because the brisket is just so freaking flavorful. Man. Okay.
I can do it all, I will never fall. It's the Renaissance, you know that I got the mother sauce, man. You know I'm the boss, I know what it costs. Have you ever lost? I'm so versatile, yeah, I'm a Renaissance, man. I can do it all, I will never fall. It's the Renaissance, you know that I got the mother sauce, man. You know I'm the boss, I know what it costs. Have you ever lost? I'm so versatile, yeah, I'm a Renaissance, man.
Congratulations, brother.
And here we go.
I can do it all, I will never fall. It's the Renaissance, you know that I got the mother sauce, man. You know I'm the boss, I know what it costs. Have you ever lost? I'm so versatile, yeah, I'm a Renaissance, man.
I'm gonna get this right one of these days. I'm gonna figure it out to where like I don't keep messing up like the intro and stuff like that. Like this is only episode 4, so kind of bear with me. Okay. So we have a special guest with us today, man. We got Harrison Glazer showing up on the show tonight. Kind of exciting. I wanted to go ahead and thank him for coming on. Again, he's gonna go ahead and talk just with us tonight, and I don't even want to waste time. So without further ado, here we go. Hey, Harrison, how you doing, brother?
I'm doing good, man. I'm doing good. I'm excited to be here. Appreciate you having me on. Can't wait to talk about some Jets, man.
Let's go, man. And I appreciate you for coming on, man. I know you're a busy guy, and I appreciate you taking the time out to come on the show and talk Jets with me, man. Appreciate you.
I appreciate that, man. Yeah, excited to be here.
All right. Let's just get right to it, man. So the Jets are 2-2. How are you feeling about that, bro?
Oh, bro, I feel great. I mean, we should all feel awesome. Like, the best way to think about it, like we have as many wins now in week 4 as we almost had last year. We're halfway there. And it's only week 4. I had to look this up because it blew my mind. You know, everyone likes to crap on the Jets all the time, right? We're always the freaking bottom rung, the guy they want to, make the joke about. Well, right now, there are legit 10 NFL teams that have a worse record than us. We're nowhere near the top of that draft. So they want to crap on somebody. It ain't us. And yeah, we might have come back. Second win was a stolen one. This was a comeback win. But that's how football works, man. Any given Sunday, anyone could win at any point. And I think that, if anything, was one of the biggest things we've taken from this team so far, that they don't give up. They keep pushing to the last minute. Came back, won that week 2. And, man, Zach leading them down the field, game-winning drive. We're at 500 for the first time since 2017, man. Like, let's go.
It's been a minute, bro. It's been a minute. To get to this point right now, it's beyond exciting. I myself am I'm not going to say I'm surprised by how we started off, but in terms of being at 2-2, did you see that coming? Like, did you have any kind of inclination that this was going to be the case?
I mean, I honestly, when I first looked at the schedule breakdown, and I want to bring up the schedule quick, I remember I had in my breakdown, I honestly thought that we could win week 1. I didn't realize how good the Baltimore Ravens are, and I think a lot of Jet fans didn't. We played that first game. Yep. We were like, oh, man, it didn't look that good. Then we're watching the Ravens. We're like, okay, well, the Ravens are legit. Okay, so which I've always been a huge Lamar Jackson fan. Like, that was – I was saying it, but I knew everyone thought I was crazy at the time. That was the guy I actually wanted with the pick back in 2018. Like, that was the guy that I really wanted. But I'm so happy with Zach, man. But yeah, I mean, I thought we could win the Ravens game, thought we could win the Browns game, which we did. I expected us to lose the Bengals game, but I had the Steelers game kind of going 50-50 because, at the time we weren't sure Will Pickett, and ironically it's mid-game when it happens, but we weren't sure if Pickett was going to be the guy or who was going to be the quarterback. So Tomlin's always got a good team there and always has a good defense, and that's kind of something that needs to be talked about as well, when we talk about how the Jets played in this last game.
Okay, what about the Cleveland Browns? Did you have us beating or losing to the Browns?
I had us beating the Browns, even though I also think Jacoby Brissett is an underappreciated quarterback. I always liked him, was a fan of him. It hadn't panned out in the past, but I always thought he could be a pretty good quarterback. I had us beating the Browns. I mean, I didn't have us beating them in the fashion that we did, where like the game was pretty much over. Like that game was like, it's crazy. Like we were joking about it. Like they were literally saying that the Browns had won. Like it was like over in everybody's mind, right? Like even to us, we figured it was over. Like the announcers were talking about how the Browns hadn't gone 2-0 since.
Yep.
I think it was like 93 because it doesn't matter anymore because they didn't do it. But I think it was 93. They were like all excited. I saw there were tweets on Twitter. I forgot who it was. It was a big like sport account. I think it was Barstool Sports. They were saying like how much it's. I think it was them. They were like, how much it sucks to go 0-2. Yeah, and be the Jets. And then immediately everyone's like, it's hours later. Wake up. Take this down. What is happening?
You had plenty of chances to delete the tweet.
We came back. We won that game. And again, both of these wins were comeback wins.
Yeah.
Second one was really a steal. But again, that's how football is, man. Football, you hear the cliches all the time. It's any given Sunday. Football is a game of inches. Yep. There's reasons things like that are said because, any day anyone could be the guy or not be the guy, have a good game or not have a good game. I personally know one guy I'd love to talk about is Zach Wilson. I've noticed that I had a very different feeling about Zach Wilson than everybody else did after that game. And yeah, I would definitely love to get into it. But I know right after the game, a lot of people I noticed were very negative, very negative. Like a lot of people looking at the stat line, saying the stat line wasn't good, and they felt like he didn't play well, or they felt like he played okay and then kicked it up in the fourth quarter and came back and got us the win. I was the only one, and I still feel this way. I put out a video on my own channel. I thought Zach was good. I legitimately thought Zach was good through the whole game. I didn't get the hate. I felt like the stats don't tell the whole story. Drops were a big problem, like huge problem to the point of his second interception. So like that first interception that he threw, because, we're for fans, for fans, we see it differently. Zach doesn't have the same camera angle we have. Zach doesn't have that bird's eye view. Nope. He's standing in the backfield, exactly, with 6'5", 6'6", gigantic men in front of him. I'm convinced, and I think the announcer said the same, I don't even think he saw that safety. He had no idea that guy was there over the top, but he took a chance. And it kind of goes back to what Zach said at the end of the game, and I'm going to bring it up right here because I want to make sure I get the quote exactly because I put it out also on Twitter after the game because I just loved it. Kind of encompassed exactly what he was saying there or what he did. So
yeah, I'm with you on that, man, when it came to the Zach Wilson performance. And a lot of people don't realize, like, it was the right read. In all actuality, when you actually – I love this whole new, like, all 22 film that's come out now because it's allowed us, I think, as fans and fanatic analysts to go back and kind of look at the game from the coach's perspective. It was the right read, right? It was a bad throw. Right read. No one could have seen the freaking DB peeling off of Elijah Moore to make the play on that interception, right? Like, I personally like the fact that he went for it, that he went for a
that was
throw.
kind of what I
You know what I'm
was.
saying?
Yeah, that's what I was
You've
thinking.
got to appreciate the effort, the attempt at least, to go ahead and go for that long touchdown pass. Well, what was the quote you were talking about?
Yeah, no, I totally agree. Like literally that, man. Exactly. Because that's what you want. You want your quarterback to take risks, not take unnecessary risks
No.
and do bad things,
Right.
but you want him to take the risks and make the big throws and not be worried about the consequences. And that was literally what he said. I love it. He said, I feel like I have a bit of a different mentality this year. It's do my job, give it everything I've got, and live to play with the result. What was interesting was he said that he felt for the first time the offense didn't feel stagnant and wasn't timid. And I loved that. But just that fact of live to play with the result, that's exactly it. He took a risk. He made a throw. It wasn't a terrible read. It wasn't a great read. Turned into an interception, but he didn't let it get to him. He didn't let it rattle him. He came back out, kept playing well. I felt like Zach was very poised for the things I was looking for that I wanted to see. I felt like he was very poised in the pocket, made excellent throws from the pocket, very accurate throws, excellent timing. I think another issue we talk about, people notice this as well, his velocity is a lot bigger than Jones. So kind of like with that second interception for Tyler Conklin, I put that all on Conklin. Like you're a tight end.
Here.
If the ball hits you, okay, it was a little bit high.
It was.
But if you're a tight end and the ball touches your hands,
both hands,
then there's
both
no
hands.
excuse. Exactly.
No
Exactly.
excuse.
So that's how I look at it. If you're a tight end, the security blanket on the team, and the ball touched your hands, there's no excuse you didn't come up with that. And it's only because he tipped it up that the interception even happened.
Even occurred.
So I didn't fault him for that at all. I felt like, again, poised in the pocket, making really good reads, very good throws, accurate throws, and he scrambled out of the pocket, adding that dynamic that we know he can do. But this is something I noticed that I really liked, and this is one of my biggest takeaways from Zach. In the past, when he scrambles out of the pocket, he always tends to make the run. What I noticed was he continuously, instead of running, reset his feet on the perimeter and tried to find an open target. The only problem was it didn't happen. More often than not, no one was open and he threw it out of bounds. So I think no one really noticed that because it was going out of bounds. But that was a huge, major step to see from the kid. That instead of trying to run the ball, he reset, tried to make a new read. See, everyone's take was that he wasn't that good and he kicked it up in the fourth quarter. I think he was playing quality throughout the game, and the team got better around him in the fourth quarter, and that's what made the difference.
And I couldn't agree with you more, right? In terms of his overall play, a lot of people are looking at the stat line versus actually watching the game and realizing this guy is literally playing with a makeshift offensive line, right? You've got Elijah Vera-Tucker, who I think played very, very well, being thrown into that left tackle position to go ahead and just try to protect his blind side. But Zach Wilson wasn't looking to run the ball. Every time he scrambled, it was to create time to get somebody open. He made a couple of big throwaway plays, too, that I don't think he's getting enough credit for. The one,
without a doubt.
The backward pass that could have been a fumble in the – again, you put Joe Flacco back there, that's going to return back for 6. Easy day. Not only was he able to get the ball back in his hands, as he's about to get tackled and sacked, he throws it out of bounds, mixes it to the line of scrimmage for it to go ahead and be a pass attempt. He was willing to go ahead and take the hit on his stat line to make sure he protected the ball and kept them in the game. And people are not looking at it the right way. They just see, oh, man, he threw for 53% throughout the entire game. This is horrible. Watch the game. Watch what he had to do. He literally made everybody around him better. He made the offensive line look good. He really made the offensive line look good. One sack. He took one sack that game behind a makeshift offensive line. So his poise and his confidence is definitely there. I love the fact that, like, when you watch him play throughout the game, the moment he made a decision he was going to throw the ball, there was no hesitation. Zach of last year, you could see that he would do a little hesitant throw, a little semi-pump fake, like he wasn't too sure. No, when he made a decision this game, it was boom, back foot planted, ball was out. Ball was out with zip, with accuracy, with confidence. He's not getting enough credit, and I'm a believer as well. I see Doc Schwartz agrees as well that he played well in the first 3 quarters. And I don't think he's getting enough credit for that, man. I think too many people are looking at the stat line and thinking, oh, man, 53% accuracy percentage. Watch the game. Watch what this kid had to do to keep this team in the game. That in itself was not only a veteran, but it proves that this guy has what it takes potentially to go ahead and lead us to some big wins down the road.
Yeah, and I couldn't agree more, man. Well, you said it perfectly. That was exactly what I saw. And again, I was seeing all that hate, and like you said, exactly, it comes from that stat line. I was, like you said, seeing progress, advancement, and like you said, the reads he was making, the decision making, very decisive, which was a big thing. Not questioning things, making a read, sticking with it, not letting a bad play stick with him. And I loved the windows too. I felt like his throws were really accurate, and it just wasn't getting a lot of credit. I guess again, because like you mentioned, that stat line, it just, if you look at it from a stat line, it wasn't pretty. But if you watch the game, you see that, yeah. But you mentioned that makeshift offensive line, man. AVT,
Bro.
oh, like, dude, like,
Best player on the
not
team.
enough.
Best player on the team.
Easily. Him and Sauce and Garrett Wilson are probably like, they're on another echelon.
Yep. Yep. It's an amazing feeling, an amazing experience to be a Jets fan and look at the young nucleus of this team and realize you're going to be on the team for years to come. We don't have to worry about you getting traded away or just dropped over the next couple of years. These are legitimate playmakers, like talented playmakers. And at their position groups, they're right now in the top tier of the NFL. Like, Sauce Gardner is second in the entire NFL in passes defended. Like, bruh, we haven't seen the likes of this since Darrelle Revis. And
I put that out just the other day, yeah.
He's a rookie, bruh.
Yeah, man.
It's an exciting time to be a Jets fan. Exciting time.
Oh, it is, bro. Dude, Sauce, I'm glad you saw that. I literally put that out the other day because that was such a big thing. Like, I looked it up. I was blown away. Like, I wasn't even just against rookies. It was period. He was number 2. And then you look at his passer rating allowed against him. It's basically like every week, like equivalent to throwing it in the dirt or just about equivalent to throwing in the dirt. He's literally as locked down as they come. My take on that one, if you saw the bottom of the tweet, we all talking about Sauce becoming elite. Man, I think he already is elite. Like, it's crazy. Yeah. Week 3, locking down Jamar Chase, one of the best wide receivers in the league. Bro. Like, he get up that one big pass, but even admitted, he's like, yeah, I made a mistake. Yep. I missed my step, and I'm going to work on that. And you know for a fact he will.
He did. And he's a rookie. People keep forgetting, like, yes, I get it. Number 4 overall pick. We all have high expectations. He is still a rookie playing a position that has a very steep learning curve, and he's excelling across the board. I am so ecstatic right now with this young nucleus because you only get better. You can only get better as they get more reps, and that's what you take away from how well they've already performed thus far this season.
Yeah, and you look at those rookies, man. It's like the fact of not just how well they're producing, but how many of them are already contributing is insanity. Like, Max just insane. And it's literally Michael just insanity. And you know, for a while, back since 2020, I've been the guy saying Joe Douglas is freaking great. And eventually everyone's going to see it. And we're seeing it, man. Like, it's just insanity. Sauce, already one of the best corners in the league. Garrett Wilson, about to become one of the best wide receivers in the league. Breece Hall, JJ is already contributing. JJ looks like he's got so much potential. You mentioned Max, Michael Clemens. Like, the only one that isn't producing is Jeremy Ruckert. And that's just because he's not on the field. That's just because he's not on the field. That's it.
So I got a question for you. So when you saw the Jets lose the actual lead, right? The lead was gone. What was your mindset at as a Jets fan watching that game and watching that lead dissipate?
So I think an interesting one with that is, because I'm a big Zach guy, and I love the ability of him, and I was seeing what I wanted to see. I felt like I was mad at the offense. Like, I was mad. I mean, you can't blame the offensive line. Like you said, it's a makeshift offensive line, but it wasn't good. Like, it wasn't good. He had a lot of trouble setting up and getting comfortable, but that's what I liked. I felt like he took a lot of hits. He kept his poise, made a lot of good throws, and like we said, scrambled out when needed to. But also the wide receiver and the tight ends, just passes being dropped. The offense looked a little sloppy, and that was the biggest thing to me. I felt like the defense was playing well. They had a great game. So many people forget. You got to remember, when Pickett came in, the entire dynamic of that offense changed. Like, it got good. All of a sudden, it started playing well. So our defense doesn't get enough credit for mid-game, the offense transitioning into a quality offense and them continuing to shut them down and play well. Like, I mean, we walked away. The two biggest things that we needed to see was a pass rush, because that was what hadn't been existing for the first few weeks. And we know our defense is predicated on that. The linebackers look like crap if there's no pass rush there. Like, the only reason, I mentioned on Twitter like a few weeks ago, the only reason our defense has been somewhat okay was really because of Sauce and DJ and Michael Carter II. Because the quarters are playing so well, you weren't being exposed for that horrible pass rush like we saw last year. But the safeties also weren't playing well. Then this week, man, they found it. LaMarcus Joyner was freaking amazing.
Bruh.
The guy that I was a huge fan of him going into the season. I really liked this kid. Like, I'm like, veteran quality guy,
Right.
always played well. I was like, him and Jordan are going to be a really nice, veteran tandem back there, especially because Sauce and DJ are young. I looked at LaMarcus Joyner's stats. I'm like, wow, when he's only played safety, he's actually lights out. He had like a 90 PFF overall as like just exclusively playing safety. We were excited about Whitehead coming in, and the safety play wasn't that good. I was eating some crow those first 3 weeks. It wasn't looking good, but man, they kicked it up. 3 interceptions among the safeties alone, and the pass rush was finally there.
I ain't gonna lie to you. I gotta eat some crow because I am one of the ones that thought that Joyner should never have been on the 53-man roster. I was very adamant about it, very loud about it, and for the first few weeks, I felt like, you know what, I was justified. But my recap video, you're going to see me start it off with me eating receipts, literally eating a receipt, because
I love
I
it,
was
bro.
wrong.
That's so funny.
I
You know
was
what? That's
wrong.
perfect. And too many people, I hate that. So many people, they try to, that's a big thing with me. So many people like try to backtrack their takes,
Yeah.
or be like, what was it? Cower, the one that was like, praising Sam Darnold and Adam
Yes.
Gase like they were the
Yes.
next Messiah. And then he pretends like that never happened. Like, I don't know what you're talking about. Like,
He
I have
called it the
TV
whole
amnesia.
time. Yep.
So I always found that great. It's like I always say, back in 2020, so many people, have pivoted to Wirfs. I said back then, Becton was my guy. Becton was the guy I wanted. And I still feel, you can't, without getting into that, you can't really fault Joe for that draft pick because, he never had an injury history in college. He was one of the best tackles in the game in the draft. And I felt, that even though he was a very big guy, he was unbelievably athletic. Like, unbelievably athletic. I watched him at Louisville. He was the guy I wanted. He was legit the guy I wanted us to take. So, you never know what's going to happen. And that's just the way, it works.
And
Our offensive tackle situation has been crazy.
I'm not going to hold that draft class in general against Joe because a lot of people keep forgetting that was the COVID draft class. Like, there wasn't the same process ongoing in terms of, being able to evaluate players. All we had to go off of was pretty much tape. We had to go off of college tape. And again, Becton has all the talent in the world. No one's going to sit here and say Becton does not have the talent to go ahead and be a Pro Bowl caliber.
That's the problem. When he's on the field, he's amazing. He's a beast. Exactly.
That's it. Like, without him being available, this is why, like, there's so much backlash to it. I'm a big believer in Becton. I actually hope he comes back next year healthy, hungry, pissed off, and I want to see him start mauling people to go ahead and the fact that he embraces like the big bust mantra, to me, it's refreshing, right? Because it bothers them. I don't care what anybody says. You're a professional athlete. You dedicated your life to this sport, and you finally get to the big stage, and you excelled in your first year playing, and then you got hurt, and then since then you've been deemed quote unquote a bust, and he's just taking it and using it as fuel. I just hope that we still got him for another 2 years if we activate his 5th year option by the end of next year. If this dude comes back as a quality, now again, I'm gonna be the first to tell you I think we should still look at offensive line in the draft. I don't want to risk, potentially more injuries. Putting us in this kind of situation. But I do believe that a healthy freaking Mekhi Becton is going to make a lot of people eat their words too. Like, a healthy Mekhi Becton is a savage, and I think we forgot because we haven't seen it in so long.
Yeah, and it's that's the unfortunate part. He's got to stay healthy. So I think like you mentioned though, Joe Douglas. He knows what he's doing. I've been saying a while he's a great GM. He took Becton, figured that was going to be the guy. Clearly it hasn't panned out. He's been hurt. I felt, and a lot of people felt, this was the year he had to show us that he could be durable. So I would love for him to come back and ball out. But I truly believe that Joe Douglas is going to be looking for that top blindside left tackle in next year's draft because it really is that one piece this offensive line is really missing. I mean, there are a lot of quality centers coming in this next draft as well. And I've never been a huge fan of McGovern, even though I do have to say he's having a good season. Got to give the man credit where it's due. He's having a good season now, and he had a good season last year. But I'm the kind of guy I always wanted Creed Humphrey. Like, I love those cerebral,
Yeah.
that was my, I don't know if you remember, like, I was banging the table. Like, people
recall.
told me I was crazy. Like, I was like, everyone's like, it's too high to take him at 34. I'm like, take him at 23. I'm like, take him at 23. And everyone's like, you're out of your mind. He had that rare cerebral trait that I'm big with offensive linemen. You don't
like a
see
Nick
that
Mangold
often.
type of
Like,
cerebral trait.
that was I was literally putting the two of them next to each other for like
Really? Okay.
6 months, like just trying to get everybody to see that.
On board.
That was my big thing. That was my huge take. Because we remember how many times Nick Mangold literally audibled the play himself for Mark Sanchez. Like, he saw what he didn't see. A player like that's invaluable. A guy like that is that. So there are a lot of really good centers in this upcoming draft. I haven't dug into them yet. I plan on doing so. I'm hoping I can find that cerebral dude. If I do, I'm going to tweet the crap out of him, so you'll find out. If I find him, I'm going to go crazy, because that's the guy I always look for at the center.
Hey, you know I'm going to be paying attention, because I'm going to start doing my research the moment you go ahead and drop that name. We got a question from the crowd here. We got Big Green asking us, was Joyner, what he did, was it a fluke? Was Joyner a fluke, what we just saw this past weekend? What do you think?
So, and I was one of the few ones, again, I was eating crow because I thought he was going to be good. Like, I was like, man, you look at LaMarcus Joyner, before he got hurt last year, we were super hyped for him coming in because he played well at safety with the Rams. I remember his career grade when exclusively playing safety was a 90. Like, he was a really good player and a ball hawk as a safety.
Yep.
So I was like, man, he's a veteran. Sauce and DJ are young guys. Him and Jordan Whitehead are going to be locking it down back there. And they weren't. And I was like, oh, man. Like, even Whitehead was inconsistent those first few weeks.
Yep.
Like, totally not what I expected. To the point where I think it was Paul, shout out to Paul Eston, Boy Green. He put out the video of Mike Tomlin complimenting our safeties before the game. And I know, I was like, well, wait a minute.
He trolled us.
Does he mean Sauce and DJ, and is he confused? Like, wait a minute. But no, he was right, bro. He nailed it. Like, man, so I don't think it's a fluke. I mean, I thought he was going to be a quality player. What I saw last week was what I expected to see week 1. So I don't know why it wasn't the case weeks 1 through 3. I just don't know, but I don't think it's a fluke.
Okay, that's fair enough. I mean, I think that, a lot of the conversations based off of the first few weeks was this whole concept of miscommunication, right? It seemed like there was miscommunication in the backfield that was allowing them a lot of misassignments. And, of course, that falls on the safety group. And I don't know. I don't want to say it was a fluke. I want to believe it wasn't a fluke, right? But in the same token, I need to see it again. I just need to see it again. I need to see what these guys do this week against, a Tyreek Hill or a Jalen Waddle, because it was an impressive feat. Like, he literally, I'm again, like I said before, the recap video, I'm literally eating a receipt because he proved me wrong this week. I hope he continues to prove me wrong week in and week out. And I'm a Jets fan. I just want to see wins. I want to see wins. I can talk all the shit I want to about these individual players. And if they come out and they shut me up and they perform, I just want to see wins. I will eat receipt after receipt after receipt. I'm not going to backpedal from it. I think Joyner, last year I was excited about Joyner. This year, I think after he made his presser and he talked about, well, I was either going to retire or play for the Jets. In my head, I was just like, oh crap. So you're chasing another check, right? Is why you're still here. If your choices were I want to retire, but the Jets convinced me to stay, that was my mentality, especially seeing his first few games. But after week 4, like I said before, I'm excited to see him continue to play at that level, because he makes our team better if that's the Joyner we're going to get. So by all means, keep proving me wrong, Joyner. I hope it wasn't a fluke, but I mean, thank you for answering that question. We got
but with that, though, to piggyback, I think you are 100% right, though, man. With that, they have to keep proving it. Like, I don't think it's a fluke just because I feel like he's a quality player. But I was saying it, on my show, I was on Monday as well, literally saying the same thing, that, okay, well, for weeks 1 through 3, we didn't have a pass rush. The pass rush was not there. And the safeties were bad. So I put this out right before the game as well, because I felt like, we have to remember this. Going into the game, the Steelers had the 5th worst passing offense and the 9th worst running offense. So I was like, well, if they're going to look good, this is the week to look good. So I think you're right. They have to show, like, okay, well, they look good, but that's against a really bad offense. So
Facts.
you need to now take that momentum and keep it going, continue to have a good pass rush next week against Miami Dolphins and have a better offensive line. Even though Tua is not there, it is still a good offensive line. So let's get that pass rush. Let's, get to the quarterback, show that it's still there, and let's have the safeties keep playing well.
Facts. Love it. I really love it. In fact, that brings us right to our next question here. Blitz BK asks, what do you guys think we're going to do this week at tackle?
So that's a good question.
There's
a lot of options, and that's what's kind of cool. I literally, same thing, I put a video, it was like 10 minutes long, just chatting just about like the options, because and it's good to have options. It's important to have options.
It is.
So AVT, man, if it was really ideal, I would just clone him. And I would just have five of him on the offensive line, and then we're set for life. Like, if that's a possibility, that's ideal scenario A. Like clone AVT. But otherwise, there's so many options. Like, Dwayne Brown could be back. And I remember last week, Robert Saleh was saying, well, Brown is working with the trainers, working on the sidelines. He was basically doing everything but practicing. And then yesterday he basically said, well, the clock could be starting, so we have to make a decision by tomorrow. So we'll know tomorrow.
Right.
But the biggest thing with me with Dwayne Brown is durability was always a positive thing for him. Especially, when he came in, that was the thing that stuck out to me, because I'm like, well, we got the whole Mackay situation. We got a guy coming in that, yes, he's 37, but he hasn't missed a game in over 2 years.
Yeah.
So I was like, man, that's exciting. Couldn't believe he's on freaking IR by week 1.
Moment he signed that Jets contract, it was automatic, boom,
it's totally
IR.
Jets luck. Like, that was the biggest thing. I was like, man, for 2020, 2021, this dude didn't miss a game. Then he's out before week 1. But, if he's ready to go, that's huge, because he's awesome. Like, Dwayne Brown is one of the best tackles to ever play the game. Ever play the game. Like, I've said it before, I think the best way to think about Dwayne Brown, whenever he chooses to retire, there's a gold jacket waiting for him.
Oh, yeah.
That's the easiest way to think about him. Whenever it happens, it's just there. He's that good. So he comes back. You can put him at left tackle. Now, do you put AVT back at right guard? But then who plays right tackle? I like Mike Reimers. I like that signing. I think it's interesting that they brought him onto the practice squad. My thought is, he's not a young dude. The guy's 33 years old now. Right. I'm thinking maybe they just want to make sure he's healthy and he's good to go. But it seems weird. Like, why would you sign a guy like him to the practice squad? Like, he's a 33-year-old former Pro Bowler from years ago. So it just feels like he's destined to be on the active roster. He's not what he was. Like, he's not anywhere the Pro Bowler he used to be. But he's still, like, shades better than, like, a Connor McDermott. Like, Connor McDermott, man, like,
atrocious.
Like even moving him to the right tackle, all he did was confirm that he's like, I don't even want to call him a turnstile, because even a turnstile has a little bit of resistance. Like, you know what I mean? Like, even it takes a little bit just to get past it. So it's almost like he's a ghost out there. Like, forget turnstile. Like, so him on the right tackle, massive liability. So I don't want him in there at all. So maybe Mike Reimers is elevated. Then, ideal situation, you got Dwayne Brown, Lakin, Connor McGovern, AVT back at right guard, where he was having a Pro Bowl year. Yep. He was good at left tackle. Like, he was a quality left tackle. Yeah. Again, dude was awesome. But he was having a Pro Bowl year at guard. He was one of the best guards in the league. So if you could put him back there and Mike Reimers is ready, that's a pretty sweet line. But if he's not, I look at, like, Herbig, I'm like, okay, well, he didn't have a great game, but he also didn't have a bad game. Like, he got beat a couple of times, like, pretty bad, but he also held his own a few times. And we got to remember he's going against guys like Hayward. So that being his first game playing, I'm like, well, I'd much rather him than McGovern. Yep. So if Reimers isn't ready, then I say leave Herbig at right guard, give him a shot there. Dwayne Brown comes back at left tackle, then you got AVT at right tackle. So it's a lot of different things that can happen. The one thing that can't happen is I don't even know why we signed him. I think it's just a depth signing, but we can't have Cedric Aboyi out there. Like, I think people are just excited because he's a name signing, but I don't think people realize how bad. Other than McDermott. Like, honestly, I don't know if he'd be better. Like, that's the best way to maybe put him. Like, here, so Cedric Aboyi was a former first-round pick that's been in the league for 8 years. over those 8 years, he's only ever played more than 300 snaps twice. And this blew my mind. In those 2 years, he allowed 17 sacks alone in just those 2 years. So I'm like, I know people were kind of excited about it. I hate the boy he's signing. Like this dude, he's again never played over 300, and over those 2 years, he gave up 17 sacks in just 2 seasons. Anyone who does that, like GVR, isn't even that bad.
No,
like
my God.
So I was not a huge fan of that signing at all. I think we were so starved for offensive tackle, people didn't realize who he was. So I don't want him seeing the field at all. But again, Mike Remmers might be able to go. Maybe Dwayne Brown is back. I mean, the worst case scenario is neither one of them is ready to go. Then you leave AVT at left tackle. You leave Herbig at right guard. And McDermott sucks so much. My take, I'd rather see Grant Hermans over him.
Same here. Greg Hermans, to me, is somebody that, his technique is not there, but he's strong and he's a brawler, man. Like, he's somebody that is going to give effort. And I'd rather see effort than McDermott because I don't really believe he's trying whenever he's out there. I think he's out there collecting a paycheck and he knows it. He's not going to go ahead and put himself in between whoever's trying to get to our franchise quarterback. So, yeah, I'd be okay with that. So what are your takes on Hermans? Like, are you high on him?
What's funny with McDermott is, and again, I could be wrong, but I think what's worse to me is it looks like he's trying. And that's what's killing it so bad. Like, it looks like he's actually trying. He's just so awful, like ridiculously awful. Like, I love it. Blitz BK called him McDormat. Like, man, he's just awful. Grant Hermans is a guy I'll again, not backtracking. I wanted him initially on the 53. I wanted to see him make this roster. I liked his potential. I remember hearing, if you remember, all those camp fights. He got in a couple of camp fights, including with Carl Lawson. And my reaction was, okay, well, wait a minute. Carl Lawson, maybe he's come back from injury, but he's no schlump. We know that.
No schlump. No.
If Carl Lawson's going against a guy that's a practice squad dude, he would be whooping his ass. If that's the case, why would he start up with him? Then if Herman starts a fight with him, he'd be like, bro, you suck, and just walk away.
Walk away.
Like, I feel like if he's going at it with him, that means he was holding his own. And that's the way I was taking that. Yeah, exactly. He was frustrated. So like it happens in practice, you get physical with the guy, but you don't get physical with the guy who's ass you're kicking. Like, that just doesn't happen. Like, if anything, you feel bad. You're like, dude, you okay? Like, it's like that doesn't happen. And then I remember, shout out to, your guy you do shows with Buffalo Jet fan. He had me on for, I can't remember which preseason game, but literally I was watching the game with him in the second half. And I kept saying, man, I like the guy playing left tackle. Like, I like the way he's pass blocking. Looked up the number. It was Grant Hermans. I think he needs to work on his run blocking. That's a fact, but I do like what I see as a pass blocker from him. And he's a big dude. He's a strong dude. He's physical, and he can't be worse than McDermott.
Oh, God, that's impossible. I mean, God help us. I hope that's impossible. Okay. All right. So then those are some options, right? Like you said before, it's better to have options than to not have.
It really depends. Like, we'll find out tomorrow because it all really comes down to, is Brown going to be activated?
Yeah.
Like, that's the big factor. I don't know what's going on with Reimers. I was surprised to see him. Like, again, you don't sign a guy like that to be on the practice squad. It just doesn't make sense. I didn't get why he went on the practice squad. Like, maybe you can correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't think they've elevated him yet. He's still on the practice squad.
He's still on the practice squad.
Yeah, so it's just weird to me. Like, I don't know if, again, maybe they're trying to see if he is going to pass a physical.
Okay.
I'm not really sure with that, but he is a guy that years ago, he was a Pro Bowler. Like, years ago, he was a quality guy. So I think, again, he could be a decent right tackle, potentially, if he's good to go.
I guess tomorrow's when we got to really figure it all out. They're going to go ahead and announce it tomorrow. Although they did a really good job at hiding the AVT going to left tackle thing. I don't think any of us saw that coming.
Oh, I love that, man.
I loved it.
That.
I was watching the game, and I was sitting there like, is AVT on the left side? I thought my TV was backwards or something. I was like, that doesn't seem right. And come to find out,
my favorite part. Yeah, and my favorite part was in the end when Robert Saleh's presser, I try to, bring the press coverage to the fans as much as I can. My favorite part was when the beat writers asked him, about moving AVT to left tackle, he just had the biggest smile on his face. And he's like, yeah, sorry I kept that one from you guys. And I'm like, man, I love that. Like, I'm like, keep keeping that shit. Like, that's what you want. Like, you want to be unpredictable. You want the defense to not know. Like, I wish when AVT was right there at the beginning at left tackle, I wish the camera would have panned to the Steelers defensive coordinator just for a split second. I bet he was sweating like crazy. Like, what's happening? Wait a minute. Like, try to process what's happening. Like, I wish, man, that because it must have been like, you can imagine how the DC would react. Like a guy like him at left tackle, that changes the whole dynamic. You might have had your best edge rusher there because you thought that was the place to line up. Man, AVT killed it, man. AVT, you said it yourself, like arguably the best player on this team.
On this roster.
Like I used to feel like he couldn't play center. After watching him play left tackle, now I'm like, now I'm like, can he throw the ball? Like now, I think the way Jet fans are going to be, and this is what I think is going to happen. Anytime someone gets hurt and we need somebody, we're going to be like, well, can AVT do
that? I mean,
like we'll be like, well, we need a guy to punt. Well, can AVT do it?
Give him.
Like he seems to be able to do everything.
We got a question from Blitz BK, which is actually a pretty good one. Thoughts on Uzama?
Yeah, I think that's a great question, man. The best one for Uzama, and it's weird, unless they're changing this at any time soon. It feels like Uzama was signed to be a blocker. That's what it feels like to me, that they paid him to be a blocker. And our offensive line is struggling right now, so I know a lot of people hate that. My interesting take is, you don't get an award at the end of the season for having extra money. Like there's no trophy for having extra money left over. Nope. So we had the money to pay him. We need blocking right now, and he is a good blocker, and he has been blocking well. I'd like to see him in the receiving game. I mean, I feel like he is a receiving option, but it just seems to me now, unless you think, it feels like he's just a blocker. That really is kind of the way they're using him.
Like in my initial season predictions, I had Tyler Conklin being tight end 1. I really believe he has a higher upside in terms of his receiving ability. But I definitely didn't see this level of disparity in terms of lack of utilization in the receiving game with CJ Uzama. I was very, very shocked by it. But like you said, though, is this just right now the Jets having to do what they got to do to protect the quarterback? Is this just temporary until we get our offensive line straightened out, and then we'll start seeing him utilized more so in passing sets, running some routes? But now with Uzama, man, like you said, you don't get an award for keeping the money. Even still, he is a positive presence in your locker room, a positive presence in that tight end room. And when we do start utilizing him, it's going to be a surprise because people aren't going to be ready for it. They're going to think he's coming in there to block, and then boom, he's getting you for 30, 40-yard chunk plays. He was a guy that had some pretty good yak yardage last year too for Joe Burrow. So he's somebody we know that can play, that can catch the ball. Not the fastest guy, but he can catch the ball, and somehow, some way, he can go ahead and get yards after the catch. So I think they've got special plans for Uzama. Right now, I think they're utilizing him like you said. They need him in there for a blocking aspect because we're hurting across that offensive line. But once that gets situated here in the next few weeks, I think you're going to see a surprise breakout game from Uzama as he's utilized more so in the passing game.
Yeah, and I think that's a good point, man. I didn't even, like I was saying it, I wasn't even thinking it. Like I was talking about how bad the offensive line is. That's a really good point. Maybe that is the plan. They're like, okay, for now, this is what Uzama's role is. And if the offensive line gets better, that can change. I mean, that works because, again, out of all the tight ends, he is the best blocker. He is by far the best blocker of the set. So it makes sense.
All right, here we go. As Garrett Wilson, the reason we're not using more 12 personnel? That's a good question.
That's an interesting one.
Let's be keeping us on our toes today. Okay.
That's an interesting one. I mean, I wouldn't maybe say that's the case. I just think Garrett Wilson, like I think like everyone's saying, Garrett Wilson is him. Like Garrett Wilson is the guy. Like I'm happy to eat as much crow as I can. I was one, and I admit it, I was one of the people, I questioned Garrett Wilson, and it's because I was so in love with Chris Olave. I was a gigantic Chris Olave fan. So I talked about it on my channel. I think it's because I loved him so much. I was looking at Garrett Wilson in the same ways, and I was like, well, he doesn't cut because he's not the same player. I've realized, and I've had a whole thing on that, and I retook my take. It's a totally different player. I watched, and I still love, and I, was a big fan of Olave. I felt like was the best route runner in that draft. And he had great hands, and he was great at creating separation. And to me, I felt like those are the most important things at the next level. When I watched Garrett, I felt like he tended to cut more violently, and to me, it appeared more like slipping in a way. But I realized I was wrong. I was 100% wrong. I was looking at it through Olave rose-colored glasses. I'm like, hey, he's not as crisp because he's a totally different route runner. He is a violent route runner. Like Garrett Wilson cuts so violently, he literally tears the dirt up from under him. And that, I realized, again, eating that crow, so much more invaluable. Because, yeah, it's great to have a guy that can, make great moves and be fast. But, man, when you can cut like that, you are an ankle breaker. And that's what Garrett Wilson is. But my favorite thing of him, because, again, we drafted him, and I'm like, okay, well, I didn't really dive into him as much because Olave was my guy. When I really started diving into him more, my favorite thing about him, and this just blew my mind, you notice that whenever he catches the ball, he always tends to do this jump catch. What I noticed was, and it's crazy that he can do this, he has this innate sense of where every single defender is around him, and he's able to somehow know how they're going to move before he lands. Like, he lands and makes an immediate violent cut and fakes out a guy that he wasn't even looking at. Yeah. Like, that's the craziest thing to me. When he's up in the air making that catch, he somehow knows where everybody is and how they're moving. It's an innate ability that is just insanity. Garrett Wilson is going to be one of the best wide receivers in this league.
Man, and I'm gonna also eat crow on this one. And for me, man, my guy, the one receiver I thought was worth a first-round grade, and this
Jameson Williams.
Jameson Williams, bro. I love Jameson Williams.
Chris Olave and Williams were my two guys.
Yep.
That was my guys.
I had Chris Olave higher than Garrett Wilson, though. I can admit that. I had him higher than Garrett Wilson. Because, again, like you just said, right, the speed, the smooth, clean route running. Like, when you're watching the tape and you're looking at somebody as violent as a Garrett Wilson when it comes to his route running, it tends to look a little sloppy, a little bit freaking.
That's what I thought. And that's what I kept saying, and I realized I was wrong.
Dead wrong. I'm with you 100%.
That's what I thought. Yeah,
I was dead wrong because that level of violence, it forces defenders to. What is he doing? Where is he going? Because he's so violent and so sudden, it's almost like alien-like. He's a mutant. He's a mutant. It doesn't make sense. The way he's able to stop and go ability, man, is just it's extraterrestrial, and there's no other way to describe it.
Yeah, and the other thing I just love, one thing I always felt like, even when I wasn't a huge fan of him, and people remember on my channel, I was like, even all the negatives, the one positive, he has an insane catch radius. Like, his catch radius is like anything. Like, just put the ball in his general vicinity and he's probably going to come down. Like, that's why I always thought it was so funny when Zach Wilson threw that massive laser to Garrett when he was 3 feet away from him. I think that was just overconfidence in the fact that Garrett can catch anything. I think he was just like, oh, that's Garrett. That's Garrett. Doesn't matter. He's
I'll just throw it up. He'll figure it out.
That was he was 2 feet away and that came in like a rocket.
Garrett Wilson right now, man, I'm not going to lie to you, he's looking like wide receiver one. And I've been one saying this whole time that we had our wide receiver one in Elijah Moore, and that I didn't think anybody in this wide receiver class, had Elijah Moore capability. Jameson Williams was the only person that I thought, okay, he does something at an elite level that these other guys don't do. He has that elite speed. You can't teach that. And I really, and he was a clean route runner as well, and I really focused on that. And even when we got Garrett Wilson, I was just like, you know what? He's going to be a great 1B to Elijah Moore being wide receiver 1A. But after a few weeks of watching this kid play, man, and he's doing things to NFL caliber players that he was doing in college. And it's almost like watching somebody play Madden. It's insane. We've got 2 legitimate wide receiver ones on our roster, and before long, it's going to be Elijah Moore who's the 1B to Garrett Wilson's 1A, because the things that kid can do, like I said before, extraterrestrial. It's mutant-like. It's just not human.
No, I couldn't agree more, man. I mean, I've realized that since we took him, I've dived into him, all the film, all the study, and I finally saw, like we were just talking about, what everyone else saw. I didn't see it, I finally saw it. And it could be, maybe Elijah Moore is also that 1A. Like, I really thought, Moore can be outstandingly special. Like you said, we got 2 wide receiver ones. Well, that's a great problem to have. And the last time we had 2 wide receiver ones was Brandon Marshall and Eric Decker. And that was a great problem to have. So this is awesome, man. I mean, the 2 of them, hell, we got already Sauce and DJ are already crazily already the best cornerback duo in the NFL. Maybe Elijah Moore and Garrett Wilson are going to become one of the best wide receiver duos.
We got Brees Hall and Michael Carter back there. Could become the best running back duos. Oh my gosh.
I love duos, baby. Oh, man.
So many. Okay. All right. So, got a question for you. We play the Dolphins this week. Dolphins have kind of come out hot. They've come out hot, right? They're 3-1 right now. Tua, unfortunately, has been hurt, so we won't be able to go. I wanted to face these guys at full strength because I really think it will be a great test for us to kind of see where we stack up in the AFC East. So, we're hampered. They're hampered. Nonetheless, we get Teddy Bridgewater. What are your predictions for this week's game?
Yeah, so, looking at this week's game, just bringing up, the depth chart, remember those guys I wanted to mention. But, looking at this week's game, Tua not being there is huge. I mean, Tua and the whole situation with him, that's a whole nother cut that is just absolutely crazy. But he's not playing, obviously. He's out. I mean, I figured that was a big thing, but again, you do gotta. Teddy Bridgewater is also another guy that I always really liked. When the Vikings drafted him, I always felt like they got their guy. Like, I felt like he was a franchise quarterback. And of course, that crazy injury to his knee, came back from it. He had that amazing year with the Saints. I like Teddy Bridgewater, man. I always have. I've always been a fan of him. I wouldn't count him down and out. The way to look at him is just like the way to look at Jacoby Brissett. You don't want to underestimate them. That's the best way to look at that. Because if you do, they're going to make you pay. Because felt like, I think Teddy's better than Jacoby, but still Jacoby is, I always felt like he could be a decent NFL quarterback.
Yeah.
So, Teddy Bridgewater, him being in the game, it's still a big deal. It's still a big deal. And they have a very good offensive line, in my opinion, a really good offensive line. I mean, Liam, Connor, that's Greg. That's a quality line. So that's why I felt like we talked about with those edge rushers, even though Tua's not back there, that's still the same offensive line. They have to show us that they can still be good. Because if they disappear this week, then it's back to what we saw weeks 1 through 3. So I want to see that pass rush continuing to be there. It's a quality offensive line, so it's got to be. They have really good receiving options, but man, like we were just saying before, we legit have it's not even one of. I'm pretty, and I could be wrong, but I'm pretty confident that our team with Sauce and DJ, they're the only tandem that are both top 10 guys.
Top 10. That is 100%
I do believe
accurate.
they are.
So by
fact, they have to be the best cornerback duo in the league. So I think it's funny that beginning of the season, all of us on Jets Twitter, we were telling Dolphin fans, "Oh, Tyreek Hill better look out," and everyone's like, all the Dolphin fans were laughing and laughing. My question to them: are they still laughing? Are you still laughing? Because you got Sauce and DJ coming in, and that is the best corner duo in the league. Man, if they shut down Tyreek and Jalen, and hell, Sauce shut down Freiermuth last week, so he could shut down Gesicki too.
Yep.
What are they going to do? What are they going to do? But the pass rush has to be there. That's the biggest thing to me. We saw a good pass rush last week. Now they're going against a good offensive line. Show us it's not a fluke.
Okay. So what's your prediction for this week's game?
I think it's going to be close. I do. I think it's going to be a close game because, like you said, the Dolphins were really hot when Tua was playing. I think, again, it's not like a schlump's going in there. Teddy Bridgewater is a guy like we saw with the Saints. If he steps into a good team, he can play. He can ball. So maybe if I had to guess, I would say 24-21 Jets, maybe 28-24 Jets, something like that.
Okay.
Ish, like around there maybe.
Okay. So see, for me, so this is gonna sound very freaking weird, right? So I predicted the Jets to beat the Baltimore Ravens. We lost. I predicted the Jets to lose to the Cleveland Browns. We won. I then predicted the Jets to go ahead and beat the Bengals. We lost. predicted they were going to go ahead and lose to the Steelers. We won. So I'm going to stay in character here and do my part as a Jets fan. I think we're going to go ahead and come out, and it's going to be a pretty competitive game. I think right now, in terms of the talent, we do match up very well. And I do think we have a slight advantage in that matchup between our defensive backs, right? The cornerback versus the wide receivers. They're probably not going to face a duo like these two guys all year. And they get to come in right now and test what they're really about. And they're doing it with Teddy Bridgewater. And I think the offense is firing right now on all cylinders. And like you said before, their offensive line is definitely pretty good offensive line. So I'm going to go ahead and say the Jets will lose this game. The Jets will lose this game. It's going to be a 24-21 loss.
Well, what did you have? So that's pretty crazy, bro. That like you legit, like if you were the house in like a casino, you would have cleaned up on that. Like you had the opposite on every bet. Like
every single one. Exactly.
So who did you have? Like in the Dolphins game, who did you originally have?
I originally had the Jets beating the Dolphins. Like originally, I had the Jets beating the Dolphins.
Okay. So I guess I mean, we'll see because it might turn out, man. Maybe your thing was like perfect for the opposite. Maybe. I mean, I'm hoping that's not the case, but
I'm hoping that by me saying the Dolphins win, you know what I'm saying, I'm doing my part to karma, the football gods, whatever it might be, that gives us the edge necessary for the Jets to again win the game. I'm realizing they're playing opposites with me, so I'm playing the game now. I'm playing the game. I just want to go ahead and do my part.
And speaking about the football gods, man, I think this wasn't even a fact that we talked about. It was raining pretty bad in Pittsburgh on Sunday.
It was.
We thought it was on Saturday. My bad. It was Saturday night. It was raining pretty bad. It was supposed to continue raining into Sunday, and it was in the morning. We thought it was going to be like a slop game and for Breece Hall to be running all over the place. Man, The football gods shined on Zach Wilson, and they just cleared it up.
Yep.
Sunny skies, made it nice, and yeah.
Harrison, brother, you've been great, man. I really appreciate you coming on and talking Jets football with me, man. Hopefully we get a chance to do it again. Maybe I can come on your show anytime. I'd love to go ahead and chop it up with you. So tell everybody where they can go ahead and find you, brother.
Appreciate it, man. Appreciate it. So you guys probably know on Twitter you can find me at MYJets TF Media. Always bring you guys media coverage as well as my takes. My biggest thing on YouTube, trying to get myself up to 1,000 subs, working my way. If you guys can help me out, be greatly appreciated. If you could sub on the channel, it's the Take Flight Spit and Fire podcast. I do a live show every Monday at 7 p.m. Definitely want to have you on, man. It'd be freaking awesome. Looking forward to it. But yeah, do a live show every Monday, 7 p.m. A lot of fun. Appreciate everyone tuning in. We just like this, chat it up in the chat, make jokes, have a good time. I put out content throughout the week as well, shorter videos for you guys to check out. But definitely, find me on YouTube, the Take Flight Spit and Fire podcast.
Man, brother, I appreciate you, man. Thanks for coming on. This has been another episode of Taco Tuesday with Gunny. Harrison, until next time, brother. You have a good one.
Appreciate you, man. Thank you for having me.
Good night, everybody.